Tonight on Huckabee. Crisis on the border. The White House says border security is stronger than ever, but patrol agents say they're overwhelmed.
There is no way that we can keep up with the amount of people that are crossing.
And it's not just unaccompanied children coming across.
You're not seeing the terrorists that come from these other countries.
The real story on who is coming to America. And rockets fired into Israel. Israel retaliates with airstrikes.
We will defend ourselves, and we will win.
How far will Israel go to stop Hamas? Plus,
the American people are witnessing the greatest lie that is cleverly orchestrated by President Obama and his whole administration.
That was in 2010. Tonight, John Voight is back with the governor with a new call for Americans to stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Mike Huckabee.
Thank you. What a great audience we have here, and we're so glad you've joined us. Welcome to Huckabee from the Fox News studios in New York City. All right, look, our southern border is a complete mess. Truth is, we don't even have a border right now because borders restrict access. What we have is an open door. President Obama told us that we could keep our doctors if we like them, and we could keep our health insurance, and that we would pay $2,500 a year less for it. He said Benghazi was caused by a little video, and he told us that he'd get to the bottom of the IRS scandal. The same president said there was a red line in Syria. He said our borders were more secure than they've ever been. His Justice Department pursued conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza, but not the people who botched Fast and Furious. This president also made this absolutely bogus promise.
I have a track record of transparency. I'll make our government open and transparent. We'll do it in a transparent way. I want transparency, I want accountability, so that the American people can be involved in their own government. Let me say it as simply as I can. Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
Well, in reality, this administration makes the darkest days of the Nixon administration look like a glass-bottom boat off the Cayman Islands. In the disaster along our southern border, border agents, HHS workers, even volunteers are told, see nothing, hear nothing, and speak nothing. The press are given strict rules as to what they can see, record, ask, and report. Which leads me to ask, what's worse, a president who thinks that he can suspend the First Amendment, or a compliant and cowardly press corps that goes along with this abuse of office? I fully understand that no elected official is required to help load a gun pointed at his head. No law says a person has to answer questions or grant interviews, especially if one knows the reporter is biased and incapable of getting the story right. But public facilities using public money and run by public employees are the public's business. When Congressman Jim Bridenstine of Oklahoma attempted to visit the warehoused illegal immigrants at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, in his own congressional district, he was told he couldn't come. Now, later he was told he could come, but he was given a long list of restrictions. Are you kidding me? Folks, we elect Congress to ask questions and to have oversight of the way that our money is spent. Saying to a congressman that he can't do his job and even enter a federal facility in his own district ought to outrage every bona fide journalist in America. I've got to ask, where's the outrage? Where are the journalists? Because if the press won't practice the First Amendment, they will surely lose it. Look, I am not a journalist. I don't even play one on TV. I'm admittedly a partisan who ran for and held public office under the auspices of a political party. I readily confess my point of view, but there are too few press people left who will scream out loud when the president lies and covers up the activities of a government that's supposed to be serving us. This week, 38 journalists with the Society of Professional Journalists did send the president a letter that lays out their case for how this administration has stonewalled the media from getting accurate information and access. Well, finally. Now, as for the immigration mess, I'm genuinely sad for the babies and the little kids who are virtually tossed over our border so they can try and get a foothold in a free country. But if this is a humanitarian crisis, then it's the president's lax policies that have created it. And if it's urgent, the president ought to stop playing pool with his buddies, cancel some of the high-dollar fundraisers for his political cronies, and get down in the middle of it and show some leadership to take charge of it instead of just taking checks from big donors. President Obama's actions would be the equivalent of going to New Orleans in the height of Katrina to eat Creole food, but never visiting the Ninth Ward, the Superdome, or the Convention Center. And the press needs to hold him accountable. Or we may lose this great republic because the watchdog has become a lapdog. If thousands of babies in diapers and little kids can get across our borders, do you not wonder how many terrorists are walking across every day? And this president and a compliant and a blind press should be held accountable as co-conspirators. Well, unlike President Obama, my first guest tonight has been to the southern border, and he has video proof of what's going on down there.
Right now, there are Border Patrol, tons of them, in that preserve trying to apprehend the families that are coming across. Move over to the right. You'll see this park. It's completely empty. But today, before 5 o'clock, it was filled with Border Patrol and constables. Where they've gone, I have no idea. It's completely empty. And this is what scares me to death. Over there, you have Mexico, and that's the Rio. And you can see the lights on the cars. Those are all scouts, and they're little dinghies. And they've got little boats that are coming across and wave runners, and they keep on going back and forth. And that wave runner is bringing over drugs, and it's bringing over people. So while we're over here trying to get families, we've got everything dangerous coming through on the right.
Well, joining me now, just back from the Mexico border, is filmmaker Dennis Michael Lynch. Dennis, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
What you have put together is the most remarkable video that I've seen from anywhere. You've seen this not just recently, but over the course of the past several years as you've documented the immigration crisis. What troubled you the most from your most recent visit?
My most recent visit is actually a life-changing event for me. I have seen so many things take place over the last month, especially my last visit a couple of weeks ago. With 4 children, I'm concerned. Our country has officially fallen off the cliff. From a disease standpoint, hundreds of thousands of people have crossed the border, and they have not been checked for any diseases. And we are starting to see Border Patrol agents are the first ones to be affected. Just last night, a Border Patrol agent was hospitalized for bacterial pneumonia. This is going to continue, and when it's really going to hit America square in the face is when school starts in September. We're going to be flooded. The schools are not prepared for this. The school nurses aren't prepared for this. I have been not only to the border, I've been talking to schools, especially where I live. They're looking at me like deer in headlight. What are you talking about? You mentioned about how the media is failing its job. Most Americans don't know what's taking place. So we're going to get hit really hard with that. We're at the point right now where the Border Patrol Union is telling the Border Patrol, come to work with gloves, an extra pair of clothes, shower before you leave, so this way you don't contaminate your children and wife at home. Governor, when I say this is a life-changing event, I'm at the point right now where I say America is in more trouble than it's ever been in our lifetime.
You got some video and interviewed one of the Border Patrol agents. We can't show his face. We obviously can't identify him. He'd get fired on the spot if he was identified. But this is very revealing of what you just said and validates what you just said. I want us to watch it, and then we'll get your comments.
The health check, the health screening that we see is we basically just ask them if they're feeling okay, if they're sick.
So there are reports right now that the kids being put into these detention centers or these holding centers, that they are getting immunization checks. Do you have any idea if that's true or not?
I have not seen one child sent or had any sort of medical staff come and check the children. I've seen numerous families come in and go out, and nobody has touched them in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, this is alarming when I see this is a Border Patrol agent, so this is not just some activist who doesn't like immigrants. And I think a lot of people are torn with compassion for the children. I have compassion for the children. But I also want to hold my government responsible for protecting the rest of America and saying, look, it's one thing to provide assistance for hungry kids or for diseased children, but to mainstream them in the middle of schools in America without adequately protecting the people who are going to be exposed, that's really serious. And that's what this agent was saying.
Our immigration laws were designed for two reasons primarily. One is to protect the American worker from unfair foreign competition, and number two is to protect American lives and health. That's not happening. Until we remove the incentive for people to come here, which is the ability to work, this is going to continue. I promise you that. Everybody's got their eye on the wrong thing. We have to remove the incentive, and we need to protect the border better than we are right now because the Border Patrol is changing diapers.
Dennis Michael Lynch is with us with some exclusive video. You do not want to miss it. We'll be right back. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show and share with me your thoughts, I welcome your response. Go to my website, MikeHuckabee.com. You can connect with me on Facebook, sign up to follow my regular messages on Twitter, or leave comments on the feedback section at MikeHuckabee.com.